Hey, so if you're watching this today, you're likely an operator out there in hogland, somewhere in the world. And I'm here with Wojtek Tepliki, who is our senior trainer, travels the world doing trainings all over the place. And some of you, a lot of you probably know Wojtek. And today we're filming a continuing education piece called Pressure Loss. And so we're gonna bat this back and forth and talk about some of the most common places you'll find pressure loss. So Wojtek, great to have you here, and thank you for all the great work you do on behalf of Hog.
Nice to be here, James, and I'm happy to help some of our operators with pressure loss.
Yep. So, you know, the very first thing you want to do is make sure that you've got water to your high pressure pump, and you know, making sure that the RPMs, obviously, if let's just say that you're sitting there and you have charge pressure to the pump, 40, 60 psi, but the pump isn't spinning any RPMs. Well, obviously you're not going to be able to make pressure, right? So you want to make sure that you've got adequate RPMs at the high pressure pump. And once you've got that, where do you think we should look to next?
Well, next would be nozzles, which is pretty obvious issue, which in order to check nozzles, we want to take our spray bar protectors off.
Sure.
And
if you don't take the protectors off, it'll just leak in behind the protectors.
right, exactly. There are multiple weep holes that we need to check.
Sure.
And that's why it's important to take protectors off.
Yep.
A lot of times, guys get a little lazy. They think they can just check nozzles looking, you know, through the protectors, but that's not the way.
So then you've got to stop the heads from spinning.
Yes, correct.
Yep. And once you've taken the protectors off, stop the heads from spinning, now you should be able to see very easily if a nozzle is leaking. And you know, next.
Yeah, what we're looking for would be cohesive stream. We want the cohesive stream to be between ½ inch to maybe an inch.
Yeah. I got you. So in other words, the nozzle itself may not be leaking, but if the nozzle is blown,
exactly,
and the operator should refer to the nozzle quality guide.
Yes.
In order to do that. And where would we look to next? I guess.
Now one would be where spray bar connects to the shaft, through shaft. There's a little brass button,
right,
which is very important to inspect while you're testing for high pressure, because if it's leaking, that little leak can create a major problem.
Sure, and it'll cut your spray bar.
Right, exactly.
You know, we routinely have people call in and say, hey, could you repair a spray bar? And by the way, if that does happen, we can do that. Now, you know, one thing, just talking about all this, one thing that I love to do is just, if I'm not getting pressure, and by the way, I did do this for years, just for the record,
right,
but I often just start right here at the heads, kind of where the rubber meets the road, they say, you know. Start here and just work my way backwards. And of course, we've already covered the nozzles, spray bar to shaft connection. Take us through what we would check next.
Well, before we go change the subject, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the nozzles. We do have to check the GPM of the nozzles, of the configuration.
Nozzle configuration, very, very good. Because
let's say somebody else was operating the truck before you have no idea what kind of configuration you have.
Sure, so refer to your configuration guide and make sure that you don't have a funky configuration that you're not familiar with. And next, what about swivel seal?
Yeah, the next thing would be a swivel seal, which is it's a consumable item. It goes bad from time to time. Unfortunately, you have to stop what you're doing and change it. There are a couple weep holes that some operators confuse.
I've had that happen, Wojtek. In fact, one time I remember a guy called me and says, I've used 13 swivel seals. I'm on my last one. I'm just trying to get through the day. And I said to the guy, I mean, 13 swivel seals in a day. I mean, these swivel seals should last at least a couple of days, 16 hours. And what he did, I think, is what you're driving at. The nut wasn't tight to the swivel seal adapter.
I see it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, every high pressure component's got a weep hole. So sometimes if it's not a swivel seal, it could be a little fitting, and all it takes is just 2 wrenches and just tighten it.
So, you know, we've talked about the simplest things, and the thing that everything we've talked about so far has in common is you can see it, right? You can see it with your eyes, you can identify it pretty quick. You know, now we're gonna move back to the high pressure pumping area. Back here, great picture of our new Stripe Hog 24.0, 24 gallons a minute, 40,000 PSI. This unit went to the Dubai airports. But next thing we're going to talk about is some things that you can't see. You have to do a little deeper digging. How do you go about checking your bypass valve, Wojtek?
One of the ways of checking the bypass valve is to close it.
Okay.
Close it all the way.
Turn the knob all the way closed.
All the way closed.
Right.
You do it while the pressure is on, while you operate in the truck.
Sure.
Of course, you're in a stationary position.
Sure. And then take the hose off the back end.
Back hose off the back.
Yeah. So if you close it down, take the hose off the back end. If any water's leaking out, that's going to lead to pressure loss. And secondly, a close second, the dump valve or the diverter valve.
Yes.
Located right here.
Yes.
And how do you want to check for that?
Well, pretty much the same way as we would check the bypass valve.
Sure.
If there's any leak coming out of the back of that valve, that means the cartridge is no good and needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
Easily replaced.
Okay, and then I think we're kind of down to maybe two remaining issues. Packings. To check for packings, do I have it right still? You just turn off the lubrication water packing by packing. And if you have water still coming out, now you don't want to leave that lubrication line off too long. If you do, the packing will instantly overheat. So you just want to turn it off for 2-3 seconds and then turn it right back on. And then lastly, I think the univalves. How do you recommend gauging whether a univalve might be bad or not?
Well, univalve is probably the least thing that would go bad. I mean, a univalve either goes really bad and then you just lose most of the pressure.
Yeah. I think it's probably the most difficult thing.
Yes.
You know, sometimes if a univalve is going bad and water is slipping by, you almost feel some heat in the head. But I've also had, the other thing that'll happen is you'll get some gauge fluctuation.
Right, exactly. Because usually it's going to be probably most likely just one valve out of 3.
Right.
So we pretty much get like an effect of engine skipping.
And I think, guys, this is where we recommend that you carry 3 lapped valves. And if you've identified all of these other things that are in good order, then the last thing you want to do, pop your head down, replace the univalves, pop it back up. Hey, this is where the Jetstream pump is just amazing. You can do that in under 10 minutes. And with that, I think we've pretty well eliminated all of the potential causes of pressure loss.
That's right, yep.
Well, thank you all of you out there for watching this continuing education piece. And Wojtek, thank you for being an exceptional hog trainer. And if you've still got questions or need help, please text the word support to 67076 if you're in the US, or call the helpline if you're international. Our commitment to you is to provide you competent assistance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Take care.